I don't know whether they do or not. I know they have the outdoor classroom, but I don't know whether they actually give workbooks or not.
I got a blue ribbon. What'd you get?
Did you? I must not have, because I don't remember.
They gave a blue ribbon, a red ribbon, and a white ribbon. And you had this workbook you had to work on, and I still have mine.
Do you?
I still have mine. If I could find it, I'd bring it right out here and flash it at you. Because when I talked to Jim Gillespie, he didn't know what I was talking about. And I think it's so important to teach our kids this stuff, because we have a state that has so much, and we aren't doing enough with it. And we need to have a department of land sustainable planning. And we need to bring department heads like you together so that the left foot knows what the right foot's doing. Because you have a very varied, the questions you've been answering are all over the map here, and you have to know about a lot of things. And we have two kinds of agriculture in this state that are banging their heads against each other, and your election was an indication of that. And it's pretty much 50-50, and you know that. And I think you've done an excellent job of listening, because you were framed as the corporate ag candidate. Denise O'Brien was the sustainable ag candidate, and guess who was standing right between you? Because some people just thought it was a natural that Denise and O'Brien and I were fellows in a program together, Food and Society Policy Fellows. But Bill Northey and I grew up in the same town, and we did the same conservation notebook.
I think we did. I don't know. I probably didn't get a blue.
But I really think that there are two types of agriculture, and our family is a wonderful example of this, and they're banging their heads at each other. And some people think I sleep with the enemy every night. So it just, we have got to find a way to talk about sustainability and what's going to last for Iowa. And probably dumping chemicals on the ground is not going to be sustainable, because we aren't going to be able to afford the petroleum, even if it was a good idea to begin with. So we need to look at ways to get more people back on the land, being better stewards of the land. And we had some questions out here about CAFOs, and I stand with a leg in each puddle, and I would never want to have a CAFO, but I'll tell you, there were some 1950 farmers with hog lots in their barn, just like ours, that did as much devastation to the water as not in great volumes, but just because you're farming outside with your pigs doesn't mean you're necessarily doing a better job. And we actually need that matrix system that's gonna not hedge on the end result. We need some rules, and we all need to abide by them. And we need to have the towns and the city centers seen as important. We got to find ways to make those main streets viable again, and not just some boutique type area. And those are the kinds of answers that I really want to see. As a person that direct markets meat, my license this year, it has gone up so much. I am paying so much more for for the inspection and appeal. I have to buy one license to go to the farmer's market, and that's called a license to market, what is it? Hazardous food.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's the name of the license. I wouldn't sign it up. I wasn't gonna admit to that. But in order to be at the farmer's market, I had to sign on the line. It cost me $100 to say that I am a marketer of hazardous food.
And that was appeals and
Inspections and appeal. Then I have these chickens, and there's 4 places in Iowa that I can get them state inspected so that I can sell them at a grocery store or a farmer's market legally. At Kimballton, So I put my chickens in my truck and I drive 200 miles to Kimballton, and then I stuff their 40-degree bodies 6 hours later into ice in an igloo cooler, and I drive 200 miles back on the 4th of July. Now, that's not safe. That's not safe. And we're having a heck of a hard time trying to get a poultry processing in central Iowa because we have sewage issues and all kinds of issues we have to deal with, but we also have workforce issues, like somebody back here said. And we need to be looking at putting young people back on the land, and that's going to start with a conservation ethic when they're very small. You know, kudos to Irv, who had a Leopold reading thing last year, and actually you looked at talking to children about it too this year. And it's, you know, there's lots of people that are active doing things, but do you ever meet with the other department heads?
Yeah.
Can you ask that Yo-Yo about that terrible license?
I would love to know more about that.
How do you really feel about it?
You don't want to know. You don't want to know. But, you know,
and that's where, you know, there's so many pieces here, and you're right. One of the things that we get in pushback we get certainly in local food production is food safety, concern about food safety. We all know the present system is not perfect by any means, obviously, but there is a concern about making sure that we construct a system that's better, and how do we ensure that? And so how do we make sure that the stuff that's grown on hundreds of farms out there is somebody's not applying sewage sludge to it or other kinds of things, or they're not having animals run through it the same way that things are happening in some of the commercial operations. And there is one state, we've actually talked to figure out if there's a way of being able to connect potentially with a food safety program for local food production. The problem is all it gets very regulatory very quickly. And you create disincentives for folks to participate in direct market. Anytime that you have a relationship that's out there and you've got to send somebody else to look over somebody's shoulder, you've got to increase paperwork. You know, these things are not easily created. We see pieces of it, and you see other pieces that have to happen at the same time. Including one of the discussions was on a vegetable production. We had an FFA director that came in, and another fruit and vegetable producer from Eastern Iowa came in 2 weeks ago. I said one of the best ways to be able to get some of these kids that cannot farm any other way is to get them started in vegetable production. And the way it's going to work is we've got to have processed vegetables that are available outside of that. We need ways to be able to make that happen. How do we make that happen? But it takes bucks. It takes dollars. It takes a processing plant. Which comes first, the production or the processing plant? Who's going to build a processing plant based on the hope that somebody's going to come out? Who's going to start building an operation for processing vegetables based on the expectation that somebody's going to bring those dollars? This isn't easy to create. You've got certainly workforce issues, other kinds of things. You know, I would like to think that there are ways for the two sides of agriculture to not have to compete, but both be able to coexist. And that was kind of the basis behind some discussion that we had this last year on the sensitive. You hear a plane going, I think this is probably just somebody flying around, but you'll see a lot of planes that are flying right now that are spraying for aphids on soybeans. That's an insecticide to kill bugs on soybeans. You'll see fungicides going on corn and soybeans. And the process really ramped up a year ago. And we've got organic fields out there. We've got vegetable fields as well. And we got vineyards as well as bees that are very vulnerable to those flyers and drift.
Thank you for bringing the bee guys.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes.
Yay.
And we need a way for those folks that are doing something perfectly legal, spraying on an approved product that's been registered on a field that's perfectly legal, but also not to drift onto other areas and know where that organic production is. Jerry was a part of helping us work with that and try and create some way where both groups of folks can do what's legal and have the opportunity to be able to do the production the way that they want to do it. And I think we're seeing more farms like yours, where we have both sets of agriculture on the same farm. We have vineyards going up in commercial grain operations. We got specialty livestock operation, Berkshire hogs going in, where a guy has a chicken building too. And I mean, we have lots of those pieces. And to me, there's more of those pieces where folks are coming together rather than fighting. I would love to be able to make that happen. I don't think I should be choosing the kind of agriculture or government be necessarily saying you've got to do something different than you're doing because the powers that be have decided that small livestock production is not efficient anymore, or it's a waste of resources, or you can't do it, or large livestock, if it's legal and if it's done right and it's been proven, I know there'll be disagreements here, but that somehow is illegal in a different way. We have to let our systems try and each have their pieces.
I have a saying for that, and it is that conventional agriculture and sustainable agriculture can coexist, and if one is truly sustainable,
I think
it
it'll
will be
win.
there, and the other one won't.
Yeah.
And but we are making sure, but it's also a little bit of production
Absolutely.
and marketing.
And it could very likely potentially create some processing facilities, because now you've got to have processing, because it's hard to take a fresh summer vegetable and get it into a fall or winter season without processing, some kind of processing, frozen vegetables or something.
What can I possibly send the school system that can't be worse than what they sent us from California?
There's not many people that are arguing that the school system is using that food because it's the best food available. It's the cheapest. And there's actually federal programs that require that school system to put everything out for bid. That creates some of the problems. Certainly incentives for low cost and low value food in comparison to higher value food. So in some ways, the first probably blush into the school system is outside the school lunch program, into snacks or something just outside of that regulatory environment around the school lunch program. Do you know, I mean, when we talk about Farm Bill, two-thirds of the Farm Bill is food stamps and school lunch. And they then, because they're sending lots and lots of dollars, they create the regulations of how that school lunch gets their food. So we can work our way into that, I think, but we may have to start outside that. I want Jerry to talk, and then we'll go ahead.
Got a couple comments, of course, here following LeVon as a tough act to follow. First comment or question was made a little while ago about the disaster that saw this fall. Market farmers. The latter part of June, there was a coalition formed amongst the nonprofits out here in the state of Iowa in partnership with Farm Aid. And basically, this was designed to go and benefit the small market farmers.
We have lots of things we need to work on. We need to work on a farmland protection program, and we need to certainly talk about the impact of development on some of our areas. So I think there's plenty of things that we can work together on. I'm certainly committed to that as well, and I know I had a question right there.
More of a comment in response to what LeVon had to say is that you were going back and forth, direct marketing and then regulations to ensure food safety, food quality, and things of that nature. It occurs to me, I'm a cultural anthropologist by profession. I'm a college who studied small communities around the world for over 100 years. And small communities work quite well at self-regulating. And how do they do that? They do it through things like reputation on a local level. It seems to me that money could be saved or spared by not overdoing the regulatory regime at the state or federal level, but by calling into play the local social network of reputation, gossip, what have you, because the bond depends on that good reputation to sell the product, I'm sure. I hadn't even heard of the Griffians until today and coming over to this event, but I'm sure that is a huge factor. Now, when she tries to market, if you ask me, the license to sell hazardous foods should be applied to Coca-Cola and Pepsi if it's applied to her. So,
$100 doesn't mean much to them.
well, make it 5,000. You know, make them notice. But the point I'm making is that the middle piece that seems to be missing here is the local community and local control. Local communities have a way of controlling through reputation, through gossip, through things of that sort, exactly the kinds of things that state level regulation is concerned with.
Generally, it works just fine. It's certainly a very diffuse system as well, so it doesn't create the kinds of problems that you have with 5 million pounds of meat recall kinds of issues, those kinds of things. Even that, as you grow, and Jerry talked about the growth in organic industry, even that, as you grow, you start to get issues. Certainly, a significant number of the marketers at the Moines Farmers Market don't produce their own fruits and vegetables. They buy it from others. And so at what level do you slip in? If you're selling your own, it makes a lot of sense. At the same token, if you put a huge burden on those that are selling somebody else's, then you put a burden on the farmer that's producing to sell to a whole that step in without becoming so burdensome that you drive the whole economic